Hey everyone, welcome to another episode from Ampro Engineering. Before we begin, I do again want to apologize for the poor setup over here. As I mentioned in previous videos, we are doing some work at home, so we are not at the house at the moment. So again, forgive me. In this episode, what we're going to talk about is a variety of body mounting options for the Element Enduro 12. These options will allow you to mount a few different Tamiya bodies onto the Element Enduro 12 chassis. Now the version that I have here is the Ecto, so if you do have a shorter variation, there might be some changes, but just a heads up, this is the version that I'm working with here, and I will show you how to convert your Enduro 12 Ecto into, starting with the first one, the Tamiya Blackfoot. Now unfortunately, like I said, I'm not at the house, and as a result, all of my stuff is in storage, so I'll basically go over the parts and then show the associated image to get you an idea of how this is going to look. You are going to see a number of the vehicles with these larger Element and Ecto tires, and a number of them with these much smaller. These are actually associated CR12 tires. Just to give you a comparison based on scale, I happen to like my vehicles with more stock looking tires, so you'll see these a couple of times. Okay, starting with the Blackfoot. We did a associated CR12 or Thunder Tiger Hilux variation by changing the body mounts, using these tiny wheels here and altering the rims to get the look of a Tamiya Blackfoot body on a more realistic chassis. So to change to that body on this chassis, here's what you need. At the rear, you're going to want to remove these two screws, the shock screw, and all the components here on the inside, because the rear body mount looks like this. You are only going to use the 3 in line. The variation here in height just allows you to adjust the overall height of the body. Now, when installed correctly, this will associate to the front body mount, but basically you'll want the entire bed resting on this so that all the body pins are doing is just holding it in place. So again, this goes here at the back. And at the front, it's a little bit simpler. At the front, you're going to get this part here. And again, you have 4 holes here, 4 holes here. The front will correspond to the rear. There are these small standoffs here at the back. And basically what that does is it allows the body to rest here so that it doesn't really kind of jostle about. This one's pretty easy to install. You're going to pull off these front body mounts, drop that in there. These don't look all that strong, but the thing is, there's no movement here as a result of the rear ones. So these seem to work fine. In fact, this is exactly what I have installed on my associated CR12. So this will give you the Blackfoot. You are going to have to significantly shorten the wheelbase. There are a variety of drive shafts available from the different Element vehicles. And then to alter the lengths, and this is the same for all of the vehicles, so I will not continue to repeat this, you will need to either cut and shorten these, which I really wouldn't do, or use the captured ball end. These have a diameter of 2.5 millimeters from the associated CR12 or any other captured ball end that has a M2.5 through hole, and you can create your own lengths. If you want to use a standard M3 type through hole captured ball end, then you are going to have to modify this slightly, but basically that's what I did. Okay, moving on. Please remember that all links are in the description. You can purchase these via YouMagine for home print at the moment. There will be options for a variety of other prints later on. And also note that everything that I'm showing here is designed to not require modification to the Tamiya body in question. Next, we'll move on to the Clodbuster. At the rear, same thing as the Blackfoot. You're going to pull off everything at the rear and mount the outer two, basically this mount and this mount, to these two here. And this will allow the drop bed in the Clodbuster to sit here and pin the rear at those points there. At the front, same basic principle again as the Blackfoot. These just drop straight through here. You do want to make sure that you see what I did here is that they're actually plugged on the backside. This allows for additional rigidity. And my recommendation would be tap these with an M2.5 so you can thread into them. If you don't feel comfortable doing that or don't have a tap, just use a 2.5 millimeter bit just to clear them out and just select the one that you want. Please ignore the 5 holes. The production one, I'll show you, only has the 3 holes there. You can see all 3 holes. So yeah, ignore that on the product on this one here. This is a prototype. Also, you can tell that these holes line up to the front body, and these little standoffs here, once again, are simply there for additional support so that if you do press down on the body, it doesn't flex these arms. It actually loads up these little support features there. Again, the wheelbase will need to be altered for that application. So next we're going to move on to the Baja Bug body. Now, contrary to popular belief, I'm not using the Sand Scorcher. We're actually going to use the Monster Beetle / Blitzer Beetle. The reason why we're doing that is that the Sand Scorcher has like one mounting point. It'd be kind of like in this area here on the body, because on the Scorcher it mounts to the cage. However, in the case of the Monster Beetle, it mounts to the side of the body. So you can see how this works. Once again, you've got 4 vertical mounting positions. You'll just only use the 3 in line that you need. Mount those, actually goes this way, excuse me, goes that way, and these pin straight through the body. At the front, you have a mount quite similar. In fact, here's the Blackfoot mount here, and here's the Monster Beetle. They're nearly identical. However, this one here is actually a little bit shorter. You can see that like that. But overall, the same basic premise. You've got the little nubs here to make sure that the body doesn't rock back and forth. And again, these will just be mounted here at the front with this component here, and a significant wheelbase reduction is necessary. At the front, and this kind of is true for all of these here, you're gonna have to pull off whatever factory winch or whatever is attached to the vehicle. Next, but second to last, are the body mounts to the Mud Blaster or Subaru Brat. So here's how this works. At the rear, again, 3 vertical adjustments, pin the horizontal 3 that you want to use. You can see that the rear mount is exactly what used to be there and will engage with the weird slot on the Subaru Brat. At the front, once again, something quite similar to the Blackfoot, but you can see that this actually protrudes further out. See that it sticks out a little bit more like that. And then there are 3 vertical adjustments. Given the Brat's larger wheel arches, I found that these actually look a lot better. As much as I'd love to see a factory looking Brat, the arches are just gigantic. So something a little bit meatier would look great on that vehicle. And again, wheelbase needs to be altered. So far, a lot of these adapters have basically worked in the same way, but now we're going to move to one that's completely different. So the last body that is available for this vehicle is the Tamiya Jeep Wrangler. Now I have a Wrangler body here, and you can tell that there are no holes at the top, nor are there any holes at the top rear. The way that it's held on is using this, sorry, it's hard to see, but there is a slot right in there. And then at the rear, it has these pins. So that's what we're gonna do here. We're gonna use these slots and the pins at the rear, mount the front and rear adapters onto the ends of this chassis. You can see that they are right here. These are, again, prototypes. I wouldn't otherwise use yellow. Now, as a result of how they're installed, there really is no vertical adjustment, at least not yet. Step 1, pull off the front bulkhead completely right. Yes. And then at the rear, it's gonna be the same thing. This rear bulkhead comes completely off, and I'm gonna go ahead and do this. The Wrangler body mounts are installed, so here we have the front one and the rear one. Again, a completely different setup, but it's gonna work the exact same way with the body. So we'll take the shell, slot, you can kind of see that there. It just slots directly in where it is supposed to. At the rear, honestly, I've always had trouble with the factory CC01 rear mounts. These, because they're on a straight beam, you just push in a little bit on both sides and they seat pretty darn easy. Okay, and there you go. So that is the front Again, the front's all lined up, and that's kind of what I did with these mounts is I've designed them all to at least line up with one axle so you don't have to go crazy with the other. In this case here, you can see it looks like what you probably want to do is, well, so first off, to set the new wheelbase, because it's a 4-link, depending on where the axle is positioned, the wheel can actually travel back or forward. So the higher up it goes, because the links get flatter, the axle goes further away. The lower the link goes, the more the axle moves forward. So what you want to do is set the car at whatever height you want when you're driving the vehicle. So, you know, put your batteries in there, put your figures, put whatever you want in there. And when it's at the height you want, then you can mark the center point of the wheel arch, hang something down. So like use a ruler or something. So mark that and then determine what the offset is. This one here is probably, sorry, I don't have a ruler on hand. This is probably gonna require about 16 or so millimeters. And remember that you're gonna have to do a little bit of trig, because just cutting off 16 millimeters from this isn't necessarily gonna work. Again, it has to do with the angle that these are positioned. So just keep that in mind. Once you do that, you are going to have to use a shorter drive shaft. This vehicle's drive shaft's pretty darn long. The one on the Thunder Tiger, Hilux, and the associated CR12 are significantly shorter. I believe these drive shafts are also not a standard diameter for the output and the input shafts. As for the drive shaft, this one here is quite versatile because, so I pulled the pin out, and as you can see, I can stretch this thing out quite far. I would say maybe a good 15 millimeters longer than it should be, because you can see how long the actual halves of the drive shaft are, which means by cutting this end and this end down, you can effectively shrink this considerably. So you should be able to do whatever you need to do with the factory rear drive shaft here. So anyway, there you go. Remember that all links are going to be in this video's description to YouMagine, and that will be for home prints. Later, I will enable YouMagine prints directly through that store. But for now, I did want to get these out. My friends, thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.